Good morning, y'all. Let's rock this out. I'm Rev Bruce. This is Coffee and Chat with Rev Bruce coming at you on a Saturday morning, the first Saturday of August. We're focusing on Black Business Month. Black Business Month. This is a national celebration. This is an annual celebration that should be honestly celebrated more widely. But we're going to do our part and promote it and share it here. We're going to be looking at some inspiring icons, some inspiring icons um, from Black history, Black business specifically, and just showing you the power that we already have in our lineage to build and lead thriving businesses. So here we go. Let's just take this for what it is. We're not going to get exhaustive on any of these figures or icons. Some of them we've talked about previously, and I'll share that, some of those links as well. And some of them I continue to incorporate into my conversations and coaching on Black business or building a business because they simply have the tenets that make it possible to develop a structure and system that works. That's how it works. Okay. And so we're about to get into that. Let me say this first. We are still in our 90-day financial fitness challenge. I've got 5 money moves that you can make, the top 5 money moves you can make from this fitness challenge. And within that, right, I want to make sure that you're catching on to this by August 6th, right? August 6th will mark day 60. Okay, it'll be day 60 of the financial fitness challenge. So if you can check in, right, August 6th, right, make sure you're somewhere around August 6th. We want to make sure we're checking the temperature on what we're doing with our finances, what we're doing with our money, what we're doing with these money moves that we could be making within this short period of time. Remember, 90 days is only 3 months. We're already 60 days into this. You could have received 2 rolling cycles of interest payments from a CD at Ally or Discover Bank, or received some interest payments from a high yield savings account if you had already started this when we started. If you started when we started, if you started within the last 2 months at that point. But if you haven't, the truth is it's not too late. So get on board. Get on board and get involved. Let's get this thing going. So we'll check back in after August 6th and see where everyone is and take it from there. So I just want to hit it real quick. Some inspiring icons in Black business. And I'll start with one concept that we don't talk about a lot. It's cooperative economics. Cooperative economics, pooling your resources, coming together, doing it as a group, whether this be done as a fraternal order or it be done as a civic organization, community-based, grassroots, faith-based organization. However it's done, if you put your money together, it should be able to build something. And some people of faith did that in the Midwest, and that's how we ended up with Wilberforce as one of the first HBCUs And you can check it out on the video I did. I put it in here in the chat on the origins of HBCUs. But we weren't always waiting for the government to hook us up. We weren't always waiting for Uncle Sam to do his part. Sometimes we were resilient enough to lean on each other and do our part and support each other. And so that was an example. The AME Church, and I'm going to get into Bishop Richard Allen in a minute. The AME Church has a history of establishing black colleges, Morris Brown being one of them, and very strong. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with putting your money together, building something for the advancement, right? For the advancement and legacy that it creates for a people. Nothing wrong with that. To go a little step further, not only was the AME Church founded by Bishop Richard Allen and Absalom Jones, this combination of Methodist and Episcopalian that really was the breakup of them as businessmen or even social service, because that's the only place where they split was on denominational beliefs. But it brought them back together as well. Amazing story when you read the story of the AME Church, and I did that a little bit on the AME Church, as well as some of the other factors that deal with faith in the Black church in a Black History Month focus that dealt with Imani from the Nguzo Saba. Imani being faith as part of the Nguzo Saba. And so you got the AME Church actively doing certain things, but look at Richard Allen from a different perspective. Look at Richard Allen beyond a bishop. Beyond being a bishop, look at Richard Allen as a businessman, a entrepreneur, a social venture capitalist, right? Richard Allen and his brother created a chimney sweep network in Philly during this period of time where free blacks could come through the Free African Aid Society and get assistance, education, and training, and then become chimney sweeps, right? And be part of the network that worked with Jones and his brother. Worked with Richard Allen, Jones, and his brother. Primarily the Allen brothers with the chimney sweep business, but also the chimney sweep network. And think about the innovation of that and how inspiring that can be for us when we start talking about creating small business networks or hubs, think tanks, things like that, that would allow us to work together and expand and support each other's businesses, trading service and skills to support one another. Imagine that. Imagine how much more connected we would be in business, the realm of business, if we approached it from that way. So Richard Allen and his brother were not just itinerant preachers that swooped into this denominational thing. They were already engaged in societal work. They were already engaged in entrepreneurial ventures. And so this was another thing being done. And oddly enough, here's a preacher doing the Free African Aid Society, and then also Chimney Sweep Network. Who'd have thunk it? Right? And if we're going to talk about this, network, we've got to look at Madam C.J. Walker, not only famous for being the first Black female self-made millionaire, or what we call her a millionaires. God bless. She broke $1 million, right? But she was not just entrepreneurial, but also philanthropic. There would be no widely known Harlem Renaissance if we really looked at her contribution. If her contribution wasn't there would be no Harlem Renaissance to speak of. There would have just been a couple of folks getting together and sharing their work, but it not expanding and extending to the point where other people were inspired and influenced by. So Madam C.J. Walker was able to generate an artistic movement and undergird that in a way to where it expanded not only in its level of, activity, but then also its level of awareness. And so that was something that she thrust upon society with her philanthropy, and doing that with the power of dollars that she made. How did she make her dollars? Hair products, school for stylists, this whole thing of hair straightening, right? How do you straighten the coarse hair of African Americans? Well, she had this straightening formula and combined that with the usage of a hot comb. And so, no, she didn't invent the hot comb, but she and Miss Malone popularized the usage of a hot comb as part of an effective strategy in which to straighten coarse hair. God bless. Made her a millionaire. And she stood tall among many a men in that time as a millionaire. And then we get to William H. Brown, former Georgia slave who led the true reformers, as a fraternal order, the Fountain. They're called the Fountain. No, the Grand Fountain of the United Order of True Reformers, right? But they were known in short as True Reformers. And they actually are best known for two things: having a network of hotels back east, Virginia, Maryland, those areas, but also having the first Black bank in the U.S., first Black bank to be chartered in the U.S. You can have a community where something is operating as a bank, but it's not chartered by the state, so you don't get all of the support that a bank should have federally or state-wise. But these folks got their stuff in order to operate as a chartered bank. It was known as the True Reformers Savings Bank, also known as the True Reformers Bank. So in Richmond, Virginia in 1888. Well, what happens a couple of years later, you've got a major depression during the Ulysses S. Grant presidential era, and the bank still survives, right? A lot of stuff folded. What happened to that Freedmen's Bank that they started with General O. Howard, famous for establishing black colleges as networks for training former slaves, for which we get Howard University named after him. What happened to that Freedmen's Bank that they were so gung-ho about? Did that last beyond the Depression? But here's a group of black folks, the true reformers, who set up and established a state-chartered black bank that existed in the mid-1800s while we were still dealing with second-class citizenship, if we could say it like that, for black folks. Picture that. You want to say we don't have an inspiring history. Look at that. Look at that right there. And finally, I want to push it a little bit and say A.G. Gaston. A.G. Gaston, one of the major inspiring icons of black business, who really put it out there to develop multiple businesses as he took advantage of the situation where segregation, even though he fought against segregation, Gaston still profited from segregation in a major way because he built businesses that were geared towards serving the needs of black folks, right? I know I called them African Americans earlier. We're going back and forth because we call it Black Business, Black Business Month. But I understand what I'm saying about Gaston. Gaston was a funeral home director. He was an insurance company. He had the motel business, right? That was the motel was even named after him, right? This is in Birmingham. That's in Birmingham, Alabama. So imagine a black man developing this type of enterprise and empire in Birmingham at a time where the activity in Birmingham was not conducive to the black man himself. And I can remember, honestly, God bless CDF and Freedom School, I can remember honestly sitting at a table having a conversation, Fred Shuttlesworth and C.T. Vivian and other civil rights leader and Fred Shuttlesworth constantly and consistently referring to it as Birmingham, because everything was lit and aflame and ablaze because they were not settled on black folks segregating. Birmingham. And in the midst of all that, A.G. Gaston put a major business empire together. So much so to where he was able to help fund and support some of the movement. He was able to help fund and support some of the things that Dr. King was trying to do during that time, in that era in through the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, SCLC. And so when we look at figures like A.G. Gaston, they're not just simply great business people. They're iconic and inspiring because of the legacy that they left with what they did with their money as well. Look at that. Go down to Birmingham and see what he built. See what's become of it. And let that help you envision what ideas can you take and make something out of. Where can you build and extend your reach into this world? How can you make a dream of your own come alive and come to fruition? How do you want to make it happen? Look how inspiring these icons are as we look back at them. Imagine what you can do yourself if you take the initiative and you seek to innovate. Imagine what you can do with the inspiration that they've left us as their legacy. This is to help us understand, and a lot of what I'm going to bring out this month is to help us understand Black business isn't something new. Black banking isn't something new. I know we're excited with the promotions of Killer Mike and One United and a lot of their stuff and information, but Black banking isn't anything new. I am still, an investor in Carver Bank Corp, Broadway Finance. These are small, struggling Black banks that don't have enough. As a matter of fact, that's another thing that Gaston did. He had a savings and loan, which is not, I think it was states only, Alabama's only Black operated savings and loan at that time. Come on, God help us. And if we were doing that when we marching to overcome, what excuse we got now? If we were doing that when they were bombing churches and everything else, what excuse we got now? If Richard Allen was doing that when they were still sending slave catchers north to pick up folks and drag them back down south, what excuse do we have now? If we really want to celebrate Black Business Month, we need to get busy and start building enterprises and empires based upon this inspiration. That's what we really need to do. That's how we can really celebrate and honor the legacy of these inspiring icons of Black business. That's what Black Business Month should encourage us to do. Start building more Black businesses. But let's see what happens. We're going to take this through this month. We're going to make it happen. We're going to see some more examples of Black ingenuity, Black intelligence, all of this. Seeking to inspire you to get up and do more. And if you're already in business, to stick it out, stay with it. But trust and believe, this is going to be a time where we recognize, honor, and celebrate Black business on Coffee and Chat with Rev Bruce. God bless.